Checklist.io.
Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast. I am your co-host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And welcome to the show. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to know if you are ready
for the big D. Divorce.
Okay, you want to kick us off? Or you want
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So for instance, I was mentioning off camera to Rachel about how sometimes people start to already give signs, right? Where they're not wearing their ring, she's not wearing her ring. I mean, are those signs
are they signs?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking. Like, what do you think?
And here's the thing about these shows. We want you guys to comment below. We want you guys to, whether you're DMing us, but just put comments in at the bottom, because we want to continue these conversations, and we'll eventually go live and we'll let you know what our schedule is to go live. But we want to hear back from you because we're just giving you what we're experiencing, what we've experienced, but we still have questions too.
Right, of course.
For all of you guys.
Like, we want to know.
Is that a sign?
Like, I always wonder whenever I meet couples and it's like, well, that's my husband and that's my wife. And so I'm like, are they married or are they not married? Because I know people that do wear rings and they're not married, right? But there's people that are married that don't wear them. And so, but there's a lot that goes along with it, right? There's things that you don't see, you don't say. And maybe you're just tired of being in a dead end relationship where you're like, I've had enough. I almost want to make sure that I catch him, you know, in the act, because I'm just over it. Whether it's that you're in a tumultuous relationship, you're in a tumultuous marriage, like, what are the signs that you are done?
You are
done. Yeah. What do you done? Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things like where you start to feel that you've done everything that you can possibly do, and it's like you continue to hit dead end after dead end after dead end, and you've done the counseling and you've done the therapy, you've done the work, and now, you know, you're just over it.
So I'm going to cut all the way through all the layers, because, you know, we've been through it, and I know that when I left my husband, which took forever to do, I went to work, which means I went to work on myself, mentally and emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all that stuff, and I sought, you know, counseling. And everything, because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to move on with my life, I wasn't going to take too much baggage with me. Even though I even started a podcast called Unpacking Life's Packages Together. But the thing that I want to say is that when you are deciding to leave, what I had learned in counseling was that a lot of people are leaving their spouses because they're just unhappy. There isn't like a deal breaker, and we did a whole other episode not so long ago about deal breakers that you might want to listen to and catch up on. But do you think that you should have deal breakers broken
before, or what?
Like, you know, that there should be certain things that were deal breakers that, like, he broke before you leave, or do you think it's okay to leave just because you're not happy?
I don't know. I know that, you know, in the past, it used to be like the 7-year itch, right? Because most couples or marriages would last a lot longer than 7 years. So it was like the 7-year itch. And so when you would talk to people and they were married for 20 years, they're like, we went through it on the 7th year or on the 17th year, right? Something about those two. But now, you know, people aren't even making it to 2 years. So it's a 2.5-year itch. So should you make it to 7 years, you had the 2.5-year itch. And that's because people are just not willing to put up with things. Now, when it comes to divorces and someone's being abused, I think at that point, most definitely you have to make a decision immediately, because it's not going to get any better. And though they may promise you the moon, the stars, and they may do the work and go to counseling, if they have those anger issues, it's going to happen, whether it's a female to a male or a male to a female. It doesn't matter. If a person's that angry, it's always going to come out. And if it's triggered by alcohol, forget it. I mean, and so if unless a person does the work to heal themselves, it's never going to change. So when it comes to divorces, when there is anything that has anything to do with violence, I think that's when you have to go. But when do you know you have to go if there is no violence? You know, that's the question.
Is it like when he cheats? Is it when he hits you? Is it when he, you know, does he have a drug drinking and drug problem?
Right.
Maybe he's a gambling addict. Maybe he's addicted to porn.
Yeah.
Like, what are the things, you know? And the thing is that when I was in the sessions with this man, he was an older man, really sweet. I actually looked him up. It's been years, and I looked him up to see if maybe he could come on the show, but he's gone. He's like retired or something.
He's not like gone out of.
I don't know.
Like we don't have to like Are we gonna spiritually call him like, hey, can you talk to us? He lights some candles and some sage. We're like, will we feel him? Okay, but he's gone, but not like gone.
I can't find him,
yeah, you can't.
I learned so much from him because he was an old man who'd been married a very long time.
Yeah.
And so we got kind of stuck in these conversations about like people leaving just because they're not happy. And so my thing is like, I don't know if anybody's ever truly happy the whole time. And my grandfather, who was married to my grandmother 67 years,
wow,
my grandma had passed away.
Right.
And that was the first time that he had really sort of opened up, at least with me, about his feelings towards my grandma and his feelings towards like their whole lives together. And one of the things he said was, you know, I think I figured out what the ring is. And I said, oh, it's like the never-ending cycle or something like that. And he said, no, I think it's because of love. Everybody's chasing love these days, but love comes and goes in the marriage. You are making a commitment to the commitment. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, when you walk down the aisle and you say, I do and everything, you're just promising to stay committed. You're not promising to stay in love. He's not, because it's impossible. So he was saying that there was times where, of course, he didn't feel love anymore. He definitely wasn't in love and giddy and excited about the marriage. And then she would do some little BS thing. My grandma was a little diva. And then all
she was?
Yeah, she was super feisty and
cute.
Beautiful. And so she then, all of a sudden, they'd fight or whatever, and then all of a sudden, he said it would take one little thing, a look in her eye, a little and then there was the spark, and then it would last however long, and they'd be...
I mean, do you remember if he said that the spark would last like 6 months, 3 months, or is it 3 days?
Delia wants time frame.
Like, I want to know, like, what did he say? Like, wait, like, how, like, what happened? Like, what, why 6 to 7 years, like... That is a long time, but I don't know if it's because the generation of before, it was a taboo to get divorced. I mean, super taboo. Now it's like, let me guess, they're not posting you on Facebook or Instagram, and then you start to wonder, like, why is she on vacation and he's not there? Yeah. So I think it's a little different, and we're definitely living through different times, you know?
But I think that, you know, going back to his principle or his realization after she was gone, it really resonated with me because you are making a commitment to the commitment, and so many people are not.
No.
They're making a commitment to how you make the other person makes you feel right now.
Right.
And it's like if that person doesn't make you feel a certain way after a certain amount of time, now you're looking at your coworker.
That's at the fax machine.
You know, or you're the cute guy you see all the time at Starbucks.
The vendors that are coming in.
You know, all that suddenly starts to really stand out to you compared to like your lump on the log on the couch or whatever you got going on.
Right. But then there's that state of newness, right, in my opinion, where, you know, when someone's like, hey, I like the way you smell, your hair looks pretty. And so like now you're not receiving those compliments, but now the Starbucks barista is doing it. So you're like, wait a minute, like I'm going to fluff my hair before I go in there. So I don't know if we are looking for that excitement, or, you know, I want to think that that's maybe what it is, that we are kind of experiencing where we're getting a lot of attention from the opposite sex. Like the minute you post something, I mean, someone's throwing themselves in your DM, and so it's a little bit easier to kind of go around things, in my opinion, if you have a tendency to cheat or whatever it is.
I mean, so, you know, it is interesting to look at it because you just say, okay, what is the expectation?
Right.
There's a lot of people who say, a lot of experts who say, you know, your disappointment and your unhappiness comes from your expectations, and you shouldn't really have any. You and I talk about this a lot.
All the time.
And so, you know, we'll go from a phone call like, it's because you shouldn't have expectations. And then it'll be like 2 weeks later where she says, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I have expectations.
Yeah, no, well, I would always, my mantra would be expect nothing from no one, then you'll never be disappointed.
Right.
Because a lot of the times we're like, well, I expected him to know that, and I expected, it's like, no, you can't expect people to know. I mean, you have to kind of be a little bit more considerate and say, well, did I communicate that with that person, rather than have that expectation? And the problem isn't him, the problem is you. You have that expectation.
Yes.
That's not their fault, it's your fault. And happiness is internal, it's not something external. It's not something that someone's going to do for you. You have to be happy no matter under any circumstance. But the real question here is not the happiness that you have or I have. It's like, when do you know that that person's not stimulating you? They're not providing that, that balance. You're not feeling like you're being loved, that you want to, I don't know, like, when do you know, okay, I got to file for divorce?
And that's the thing. For me, it's tough for me to answer that question as far as like the feelings are concerned, because I think at the end of the day, we talked about this in an earlier episode, I was really good. I learned early on to harness my own joy and to really put my joy first and to figure me out and what makes me tick. Because if you don't even know what makes you happy,
right,
you're looking for someone else to figure it out.
Yeah.
You're that woman who's like going around, everything's wrong. You're with your friends, you're like, yeah, but look at her, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but look at that guy. Like, all you see is negativity, but then somehow you want to go home and have your spouse figure you out.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
No. And this is for the younger ones if you're listening.
Yes. And I think it's that what do they call it? It's like that whole thing that we're living in with Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media platforms, where we're right away getting that self-pleasure by just posting something, and like, how many people liked the picture. And if you're showing cleavage, forget it. It's just going to be like, hello. So there's a level just for you. Then there's going to be a lot more likes. And so I think that we expect that our spouse is going to be, it's like, he should know how to read me and like me 56, 70 times in like the last 30 seconds. And it's like, that's it's not an algorithm. Just a little, like, I mean, come on. So I don't know. I definitely think that you should know that you're done if there's been adultery and you've already given more than one or two opportunities. If there is abuse in the marriage, most definitely that is a time to just say, what do I have to do to get back on solid ground? Because there's a level of I don't know, disrespect, and there's such a foul, evil, ugly feeling of living through someone that disrespects and hits you or beats you or what have you. Like, I mean, you're at the bottom. So I think that there's got to be a way that you can uplift yourself and get yourself out of that situation. Definitely divorce is not an option at that point, in my opinion. You have to get out of there as fast as you can,
And even then it's hard.
It is.
And here's the thing. So if this is your first marriage and you're thinking like, how do I know? Like, you've clicked on this podcast and you're like, I need the answer. We cannot give you that, because it comes from within. And let me tell you, whether you are fully ready, unsure, whatever it may be, it is 100% going to feel, and you let me know if you agree with this, like you're on a train and that train is moving fast.
Right.
And that train's not going to stop, because you still got the holidays and the in-laws and the friends and the picture perfect life on social media. You have this whole journey in front of you, this destination that you were heading towards, and now you're like, no. And you have to jump off of a moving train with your kids on your hips, and your shoulders.
If you have kids, yes,
and
absolutely.
whatever little stuff you have, and do you have enough money and resources and things like that to be able to then jump off a moving train. I think that it's going to feel like that.
Right, it does. Yeah, most definitely.
No matter your situation, and you're going to get bumped and bruised, and you're going to scrape yourself on the way out. I don't know anyone who didn't.
Right. But when you get up from that moving train and you supersede it all,
you just see it going,
and you're just like, woo, I couldn't have jumped off at a better time, and it doesn't even matter what holidays are coming. Thank God I jumped off the moving train.
But don't get me wrong. You might look around and be like, wait, I jumped off in the desert.
True. But
and that's where being a little prepared
is important.
is important.
It is. It really is. I think that if you already know that you're going to be looking at your exit strategy, then you need to set yourself up in that way. If you already know that you see the storm coming, I mean, you're not going to go out with flip-flops and no umbrella. You have to be ready for the storm, because it really does feel that way unless your partner and you can come to a meeting of the minds, which I always say, if you're going to get divorced, your best bet is to kind of come to some type of agreement, settlement, and just say, you know what, it didn't work out, let's do it for the kids. Let's do this for the kids. Let's just kind of figure our life out. Now, if you're gonna go through court and just battle each other, no one ever wins but the attorneys. If you decide to go down that path, the only person that really makes it out like a bandit, the attorneys.
The attorneys, those are the winners. And going back to like being prepared and the exit strategy, let me tell you, there comes an uneasy feeling within your marriage when you live in a marriage where you feel like you cannot provide for yourself, you cannot support yourself, you cannot sustain yourself, and you have to rely on your partner. Now, I want to be careful when I say that.
Yes.
Because I'm very much an advocate for a man who can take care of his family.
Right.
And I praise women who can be housewives,
right,
full-time moms. I
right.
mean, it's the greatest gig ever.
Right.
It's not easy. It's the most blessed gig ever, like hands down. I didn't have that option. I didn't marry a man with money, and I had to go build my career. But the reason I'm saying that is, even if you're a housewife and you have it made, the rainy day money that your grandmothers will talk to you about and people talk about is a real thing.
Yes, it is.
You need to figure out how to do it. Maybe it's not siphoning from whatever allowance he gives you. Maybe you say, you know what? I've always wanted to start an online boutique. Or maybe I want to learn how to, bake, pastries or, interior design. There's all these things,
There's
right?
so many different avenues.
So many avenues. And I feel that once you determine that little thing inside of you that says, gosh, I've always wanted to learn how to do hair or cosmetology or
cosmetology.
Cosmetology, right?
That could be a word. Yeah.
You need to kind of explore that already. If you have a slight inkling within your spirit that
something's not right,
you need to get moving on your foundation.
Yes.
And creating strength for yourself financially.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be carrying your kids when you jump off that train.
Absolutely.
And it can mean the difference between jumping off the train and landing in the desert with your kids.
And being unprepared, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Or jumping off the train and like landing in there's a park.
And you already kind of have a little bit of a inclination or an idea of what you're going to be doing after, so that way you can continue on with whatever career it is or career path that you decide to take, and kind of move along. I don't know when the right time is. I think there's something inside of you internally that says, okay, I can't. I've done everything. Like, you go down the list of all the things that you've tried to do, whether that's counseling, whether that's, talking to them, there's things that people do, like every Thursday, you kind of have a little box of the things that you don't like about what they did. You discuss it in a very adult-like manner. And if all those things, and you've tried every resource and you've tried everything, and that doesn't work, and now maybe you guys are just being so disrespectful, now your children are not coming from a broken home, but they're living in one. I think it's better to be alone than in bad company 1,000 times over and over again. And even if the house that you used to have maybe was a lot bigger, but now you have a smaller version of whatever it is, I think that peace, it's priceless. And a lifetime is a short time.
And the kids will
see it.
This is what I like to say. There's no greater gift to your children than to give them a happy mother.
Right.
There is
or a happy life, or a happy balance.
But for you to be
happy
and at peace, you know what? That comes with preparation.
It surely does.
It comes with preparation. And so when you're in the marriage and you start preparing, because you're like,
it comes with preparation and just having a healthy mind, and a healthy
well, like the spirituality.
Yes, of course.
Too.
And that's another thing. Forget preparing for jumping off and career-wise. You have to be ready to just know that the Lord is going to be there also, along with the things that you're preparing for, but know that God is there to guide you. And then if that means that you have to kind of look at certain books, read a certain books, you know, the power of prayers for yourself, for a woman that's going through a divorce, go to church.
By yourself even.
Or join a group.
Yeah, join a group. Find those friends
Yes.
who are biblical, because
Yes.
you'll learn from them, and you're going to pull strength from those words, the scripture. I know for me, it was huge. I mean, for me, I jumped off the train, but I landed on
Oasis?
my faith.
Yes,
you know?
yes,
And it was
faith.
tough, and we went through not being able to have the lights on.
Right.
It was a really tough thing, but we jumped, and I landed on my faith. I just knew, no matter how crazy
life got.
And I have my sons with me who weren't little kids, but they were in those teenage years where they're like, they need their dad.
Right.
It was tough. It was like, okay, but I know that God's plan is so much bigger than my own plan. And let me tell you something. What I accomplished after my divorce, after the age of 40,
was
after 20,
more grand.
It's like, you could just look at my Instagram at Rachel Delia 101. I mean, it's like,
boop.
I mean, it's like a skyrocket, and I never even imagined that.
Right.
You know, they say visualize and it'll happen. I couldn't see that far.
Right.
That's how much in the darkness I was.
That you did not know.
Lost in the desert I was. I just had to have faith that it was already planned out, and that I just had to go with the flow and just
go with
trust.
the gut, trust the feeling, trust the feeling. I mean, I think that you never know, no matter where you're at, whether you're single, you're divorced, you're about to get divorced, you're in a very dead-end marriage, it doesn't matter. There's still a lot of unknowns, right? So every day is an unknown. We don't know what tomorrow brings and the next day. And we may even plan a vacation out a year from now, but we don't know if we're going to see that far out. So I think whatever feels right and whatever makes you safe, and you're not in a volatile relationship, marriage, where the kids are seeing that the dad is smacking the mom and vice versa. And then now, you know what, this is like a vicious cycle. Now your children think that it's okay to get your hair pulled, it's okay to get beaten, it's okay to be abused. If that's the case, you need to get out, if this is what you're living through. However, if it's just a dead end, you think that the love is gone, I always say that to whomever comes to me, just because of my experience in life, I always say, well, what do we do to fix this? Like, maybe change your sheets, maybe get something really, change your sheets. Change. Maybe change the direction of your bed. Maybe put something sexy on, light some candles. Change the energy in that bedroom. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's so simple, and I could say, I mean, without having to like praise myself, I feel in my heart that I have saved a few marriages, because I'm like, hey, have you tried doing this? Have you tried booking a vacation, just you and your significant other for 4 or 5 days? No children, just you and your significant other. Think about what it felt like when you first were dating, like that giddy feeling of, I can't wait to see him. Now it's like, I can't wait to just like have him leave to work. So, I mean, there's so many variables when it comes to knowing whether or not the love is really gone.
You know, and I would add to that, because all of that is exactly right.
Yeah.
But, you know, inviting God into your marriage
is huge.
Is so huge. And
that is true.
And I understand. I know, like, for example, my husband, there was no way he wasn't going to adopt that at all.
Right.
And it was becoming a little one-sided, because I was preparing in my mind for anything, and I was leaning towards my faith, and I knew that he was very far from that whole thing. And I know that he didn't meet me like that, so it was kind of strange for him to see me then start to be like, well, and be more wise about things. I was less reactive.
Right.
When he was super mad or pissed off or whatever, I would react. And then I stopped reacting. I stopped being reactive. I got off the roller coaster.
You're like, oh.
And I was like, you know, you're having a bad one today.
Today's not your day.
I'm going to be out with the kids. And hopefully when I get back, you'll be good. And he'd be like, what? You know, didn't know what to do with it. but it was because I was inviting
The
God
Lord.
into my
Yeah.
marriage, into my life in such a way that wasn't always obvious to everybody, but I knew I was at work, and it was back to I was preparing. I
Right.
didn't have any proof of anything yet. I
Right.
just knew something was off, and I went from thinking, gosh, I could be married for the rest of my life with this
Right.
man. Not because he was perfect, not because I felt super in love every day, not because, no, it was just because it was kind of like not as bad as other people. He wasn't hitting me at the
Right.
time. He wasn't, I didn't think cheating. He was doing the best he could. I was doing the best I could. And it was like,
Okay, this
I get a
works.
commitment. This is just good, what my marriage is going to be. But when I started getting a little, like they say, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yep.
I started seeing the smoke, and I thought, okay. And so I started preparing myself a little bit. I tried to move things around financially, but it was happening around the 2008, 2009.
Oh, okay, yes.
And I started preparing myself spiritually. There was all these little things I was mentally preparing for, so that when I jump off or jump out or whatever,
You're ready.
I would be as
You're ready.
but you're never fully ready.
No, you're not. No, you're not. But it's true what you're saying, though. I think it's really important that you keep your faith no matter what is going on, whether you move forward or you step back or you stay within, those walls. I think your faith is number one. You're absolutely right. I know that I was given a book called The Power of a Praying Wife. Obviously, I didn't read the book, unfortunately. That's why we're sitting here. I gifted it to somebody. I said, look, here's the book. Read it. I didn't, apparently. However, I did pray a lot, but I do feel that if you have that faith and if your partner can join you and you guys can come in unity and remember the reason why you got married in the first place, then, nothing's impossible.
No.
Anything is possible.
Anything.
But again, if you're in an abusive relationship, that's when you got to just, you have to leave as soon as you can and really look at the exit strategy, and you still will need God, and you will still need to figure those details out.
There's nothing harder than leaving a man you're still in love with.
True.
And for in my case, I divorced a man that
You
I
were-
loved.
You
don't know about in love because, we were 20 years deep. It's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
But,
But it's like
genuinely-
you loved him, but you were used to him. You think that's what it was?
I was used to him. I was used to my life. It was comfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was familiar. It was comfortable. And if it was going to be another 40 years, I would have known how to navigate it. It was fine.
Yeah.
So to me, leaving that scenario, I wasn't completely miserable.
Right.
But then I know some people that their marriage died when they were together, and it was just dead. Like they
Yeah.
lived together till this day in a dead relationship.
What about the people that are like, he's just my roommate, or she's
No, that's what I'm
just
saying.
my roommate?
They
Like,
sleep in separate beds, and it's for the kids. The kids are not dumb.
at that point, to me, I'd rather just sleep in my own bed, in my own house, in my own time, with whatever it is that I got going on. I just don't agree with the married but roommate. But I understand if that's what works because you're doing it for financial reasons because he is a roommate.
But see the financial thing?
Yeah.
You really need to start strategizing, right, with how to sustain yourself. And it won't exactly be the same life you have with your husband, maybe.
Of course.
Because that's, he might make more money. But with everything going on with technology, and I'm even going to be teaching women how to make their first 100,000 from home and stuff like that because of this one thing. Because
Right.
what could happen is if you start smelling smoke and thinking, okay, a fire is brewing, I need to get it together. You start an online store, you start your little side business, you go to school, whatever it is.
Right.
Suddenly, there's like a pressure that comes on, and the marriage might actually breathe new life.
True.
And
Because now
you're
you're not, yeah.
Because
True.
now you're not like, oh my God, I'm under this dude's thumb.
Right.
And oh my God, he has me freaking begging for crumbs.
Are people, and there are women that I know that are educated, have their own careers in business, and they're still in a dead marriage, and they're still there, and the man is still abusive, and they don't want to leave because of the kids. You talk to the kids are like, we are miserable with them here together. Yeah, it's like the worst. And they just hope and wish that they would just finally take that leap of faith and say, you know what, we are better off on our own. But, it just, when do you know when you got to go?
Yeah, and I think that that's so different for each person.
It is.
In my case, and I know even in your case, there was physical abuse
Uh-huh.
at some stretch.
Of course.
point. but it doesn't mean it was every day.
Right.
It doesn't mean it was part of the story that our kids grew up with.
Right.
So we might have the photos, or we have the memories. They don't go away.
Right.
For whatever reason, we may have decided to stay. I know for me, I decided to stay, and I don't advocate for that.
Of course not. No.
The reason I'm bringing that up is if you're listening to this and you are in a situation where that's happened, maybe it doesn't happen all the time, but something big happened.
Right.
And now you're like, does this mean I have to leave? You have to know that you're hearing from someone that actually then stayed, and it didn't happen again after.
Okay.
But I made it very clear that just because he was drunk and he doesn't remember or whatever the situation
That's
was,
not like the gel-free card. Yeah.
As a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Literally. Literally. Drink to that.
Yes. Let's drink to that.
Cheers. No, we're not cheering to the gel-free card, but we need tequila.
We will laugh through things that most people would be like, ah,
Yeah.
But with abuse, it is a sensitive subject, and if it is a recurring theme in your marriage, Delia is absolutely right. You need to exit
Immediately.
and it is pull the emergency chute and jump. There are resources that you can Google for women and families.
That's
to
true.
be able to help you with your children. Go to your church. You don't go to church, go to a church, and they will direct you. There's just a lot of resources, and I know it's hard.
It is hard.
It is hard, but it is better that your kids see that you do not tolerate that.
And that you're safe. Because you never know. Initially, you're scared of what's going to change, but if, God forbid, this person takes all their anger out on you and they actually do away with your life, I mean, at that point, does it even matter what the changes were going to be? Yeah. Now the changes don't matter because now maybe your life is taken. And that happens a lot with, domestic violence. It's a big deal. I mean, I can speak on that for myself. I remember that I'm going to get a little bit deeper, I suppose. I've shared this conversation with Rachel before, and I feel like Nicole Brown Simpson saved my life. And that goes back from, being beaten by my ex-husband, and then now, him knocking my daughter down. And it was a whole thing that there was no way it couldn't press charges. So we had to just kind of move forward. Long story longer, you know what? It was better that my kids were out of this crazy abusive family and see that I was strong enough to say, you know what? Career-wise, I'm fine. I have my business. I'm going to make it happen. And you know what? It is what it is. I cannot have them think this is okay. Abuse is never, ever okay. And that's when you got to go. I mean, besides, adultery, that's one thing, but then abuse is another thing. And to me, it's like you have to figure that out and move. So my point to that is that you just, when it comes to when do you get divorced, I think that that's very indicative of when you should go, or very indicative of when you should plot and plan your exit strategy, because there's nothing worse than your children seeing that you are in an abusive marriage relationship, and they will carry that. If it's a little boy, he's going to think it's okay to beat his wife. If it's a little girl, she's going to think it's okay to maybe beat her husband too, maybe, and or, right? And yeah, but it happens too. There's abusive women, there are women that will abuse men too. And so it's just not a healthy way to live. And I think that it's better to be a little bit more mindful of their little minds. If you have little children that are seeing this type of behavior, for me, I just knew that was a huge deal breaker. And I think that, for me, it was really difficult to get out of that initially, to just be like, I'm done at this point. Yeah. I just knew that this was inevitable. Like, divorce was going to be inevitable. But, I think that a lot of the times we just kind of get stuck in a vicious cycle, and you got to figure out when that pause comes so you could jump out and just be, okay, let's keep it moving.
Keep it moving. You got to pray on it.
You do definitely have to pray on it.
The answers will come to you. I hope that this episode has helped you sort of navigate some of those feelings and those questions that you might have in your heart and your mind about what to do in your marriage. Just, do little things that prepare, because some of the fear is coming from a lack of preparedness. it's a lack of the unknown, but a lot of times it's just the fear of being unprepared. We live in California, and let me tell you, I'm always thinking, okay, if there's a big earthquake, there's it's going to be, it's coming. The big one's coming. They've been saying it forever.
I mean, I have buckets and buckets of food, and I think they've expired, which is great. I'm not trying to use the buckets of food, but it comes with that territory of being prepared.
Yes, and so I can tell you that because now I'm prepared, I recently became officially prepared.
Yes.
With all the items and everything. I don't worry about an earthquake coming. I can actually enjoy my life every day, living in sunny California, going to
and
the beach,
not worry about it.
I'm not thinking, oh my God, what if something happens? Because I'm prepared. And so do yourself a favor, give yourself peace of mind, and just start preparing. And it doesn't mean that you don't want your marriage to last, because there's nothing wrong with having a little extra set aside. There's nothing wrong with, getting yourself together,
of course not.
Whatever it is, paving a little bit of an exit plan.
Yeah.
And God willing, you never used to have to open that door and go out that way.
And you have to get into deep meditative prayer, in my opinion. So just really do the work internally. Get into that prayer, really ask God for a favor. And if the person that you're with should be enlightened and really see the faith also come in, maybe he'll stop that. It could be, there are people that stop being abusive if that's the case. And or if you are going through something like adultery where he says he promised he's not going to be, with the secretary, and he fires her, but then they still go to a hotel. And, there's got to be a self-worth there. And you have to remember, they say YOLO, you only live once. To me, you only die once. So you got to live that life, and you got to make yourself happy and move on and just say, you know what, it's not going to work for me. And if that means that you have to kind of, not necessarily lower your means, but step back, that's okay.
Then that's okay.
That's okay.
And you don't want to threaten your partner, but making him aware that you are willing to leave
is huge. But he may not care.
He may not care.
Yeah.
But don't threaten and be like, I will leave you in. No.
The boy that cried wolf.
Yes. I'm talking about really calm, decent conversations, reflective conversations.
Yes.
Where you say, this and this and this. I'm having a hard time getting
with
this, And I just feel like if that happens again, I might not recover from that. I don't see myself being able to continue to deal with something like that.
Yeah.
And making them aware can go a long way.
Absolutely.
And like Delia said earlier, once you've done all you can. You communicated.
You've done everything.
You communicated your fears, because sometimes that abuse, a lot of that behavior is coming from them having a fear. It's a control.
But you have to remember too, when a woman's being abused, the man or the woman will say, well, it was my fault. I shouldn't have screamed. I shouldn't have said that. It's not his fault. Well, he was drinking, and when he drinks, this is how he gets. And so, and that's the thing, you start to excuse bad behavior. And so there's got to be a point where you have to say, you know what? It's not okay. I don't care if you're drinking. You have no right to put your hands on me. That's one. Two, it doesn't matter what I say. You should be able to control yourself to say, you know what? I have to walk away.
Right. That's exactly right.
And it's a whole situation. But
well, we appreciate you joining us on this
absolutely.
episode of Fresh Lettuce. Stay tuned for our prayer mantra that's going to really kind of renew you and give you strength and light in your difficult journey.
And if we should know of any books that could help you during this tough time, if this is what you're going through, we will go ahead and link them down below, so that way you can go ahead and maybe possibly get a copy, and hopefully this can give you the strength that you will need in order to carry on with whatever it is that you're facing.
And don't forget to visit us on social media, YDFL Podcast, and drop your comments and let us know what topics you want us to cover.
Have a good one. Have a good one. Take care.
Father God, I ask that you bless me to understand that it's always darkest before the dawn, that your plans for me are bigger than my plans for me. I trust in you, Lord, that you will light and shine the path I was meant to be on. I am open to receive the blessings coming my way. I declare that I deserve respect. I deserve love. I deserve happiness. I deserve to feel beautiful. And that I deserve fresh lettuce.